Have you ever visited one of Wisconsin's state parks? I'm at Roche-A-Cri State Park in Adams County. Roche-A-Cri is the French name for this huge outcropping. There are other interesting things here, too. See here? Someone put marks on the rocks. Most were carved, although some were painted. The park rangers believe some of this rock art is 1,000 or more years old. It makes me wonder, who are the people who drew these pictures? It's a mystery. Let's investigate. Our state's history goes back a long way. Thousands of years ago, glaciers covered most of the area we now call Wisconsin. When the glaciers receded, shrubs and forests grew where the ice had been. Large animals such as mammoths and mastodons moved into the area, followed by humans. That happened thousands of years ago. What kinds of clues do you think we might find about Wisconsin's first peoples?
I think we might find fossils.
I believe that they used large stone hammers.
Some of the first people may have used stones as their tools.
They hunted mastodons. They have large families.
We'll find they move from place to place.
Let's find out. I heard we can find evidence of Wisconsin's first people at the University of Wisconsin Geology Museum in Madison. This is the skeleton of a mastodon. 4 young boys in Richland County found some of these bones about 100 years ago. This spear point was found nearby, which suggests that the animal might have been killed by human hunters. They probably needed larger weapons, too. Can you imagine hunting anything this big? Mastodons and mammoths became extinct about 10 to 12,000 years ago. The people living here then are called Paleo-Indians. We don't know much about these people. We just have a few clues, like the mastodon bones and some of their stone spear points and tools. Items made from materials other than stone were too fragile to last until now. So we don't have any evidence to suggest that the Paleo-Indians left that rock art we saw. We might need some expert help to investigate further. Archaeologists are the people who search for clues like mastodon bones or stone tools. Archaeology is a lot like detective work. I heard an archaeologist is conducting a dig near here. I'd like to see how it's done. Dr. Diane Young Holliday is the archaeologist supervising this dig. I asked her to tell me how she investigates a site.
Archaeologists dig very carefully because they want to keep exact records on where they find things like spear points and gun flints and pieces of pottery. I like to describe archaeology as putting together a picture puzzle, except you hardly have any of the pieces and you don't know what the final picture is supposed to look like. When archaeologists dig, they just take away a bit at a time, just lightly scraping the surface because they don't want to break up any artifacts that could lie just below this surface. So it's very careful, scraping away the layers. And then this dirt gets sifted through a screen, and very tiny artifacts that you might not see while you're doing this will turn up in the screen.
Dr. Holliday told me that archaeologists are looking for evidence of people. Artifacts like tools give us ideas of what people ate or the types of work they did. But they can't tell us much about what people thought or believed. I also learned about the archaic Indians. They hunted, like the Paleo-Indians, but also gathered plant food. They also had different kinds of tools, like grinding stones and tools made from copper. Artifacts related to processing food are clues that archaic people were staying in campsites for longer periods of time. They suggest that food had become more plentiful. Artifacts also tell us that different groups of people were trading. Archaeologists have found seashells from the Atlantic Ocean here in Wisconsin, and copper tools from Lake Superior have been found far from here. Why do you think people were trading these and other things that weren't necessary for survival? Archaeologists aren't sure if the archaic people left any of the ancient rock art that remains in Wisconsin, but some might have come from the next groups of people. Archaeologists call the next time period the Woodland period. Archaeologists have found evidence of different groups of potters, farmers, and mound builders here during the Woodland period. Some Indians left interesting clues about themselves in the landscape. They built huge mounds out of earth. Archaeologists call those mounds shaped like animals effigy mounds. These are photographs taken from an airplane of several effigy mounds. They were outlined in flowers so we could see them better. People might have built effigy mounds to mark their territory and as symbols of their spiritual beliefs. We've already learned something about Paleo-Indians, Archaic Indians, and Indians from the Woodland period. But there's still more to learn. Archaeologists have found evidence of one very unusual community near Lake Mills, called Aztalan. It's a state park now, and it sounds like an interesting place to visit. I made an appointment to meet Bob Birmingham, the state archaeologist. He studied the site. Mr. Birmingham, who lived here at Aztalan?
The people that lived here at Aztalan we call Mississippians. They were originally from southern Illinois, but they came up here about 1,000 years ago and built this town.
Mr. Birmingham believes Aztalan was once a town of several hundred people. The people who lived here were farmers. Aztalan may have been a trade outpost for an enormous city in Illinois called Cahokia. People in both cities built huge mounds. Powerful leaders may have spoken to the people from the mounds. Not all Mississippian Indians during the Woodland period lived in cities like Aztalan, and Aztalan was abandoned after 300 years. The reasons why are still a mystery. We've investigated the Paleo, Archaic, Woodland, and Mississippian Indians. None of those people had a written language, and so far, we haven't been able to find out who left that rock art at Roche-A-Cri State Park and solve our mystery. Mr. Birmingham told me that people have found rock art and paintings at a number of Wisconsin sites. Let's investigate further. I'm inside the Gottshill Cave in northwest Iowa County. On the walls and ceiling inside are over 40 pictures called pictographs. Archaeologists believe they were painted about 1,000 years ago, probably by Mississippian people. Dr. Bob Selzer, who has studied this cave for many years, has offered to give us a guided tour. Let's take a look. Even with lights, it's hard to capture the artwork with a video camera. But with the help of a computer, we can get an idea of what the paintings originally looked like. How do you know what each figure represents?
Well, that one's a little bit tricky because one of my colleagues immediately recognized the figures because he's a student of Native American oral traditions. Their stories, their legends.
So this is how they told their stories?
That's right.
Do you think the rock art at Roche-A-Cri might also relate to an Indian nation's oral tradition? Dr. Selzer recommended that we visit someone who can tell us more about it. I met with Mr. Alan Caldwell, who is the director of the Menominee Culture Institute at the College of the Menominee Nation in Kashina. Mr. Caldwell, we're trying to learn what rock art can tell us about Wisconsin's first people.
Okay, rock art is a depiction of a particular event that maybe an individual or a group of individuals from a tribe, a clan, or a family may have experienced. It may be of a successful hunt.
How do we know what these pictures mean?
The pictures usually were interpreted through the verbal form of communication. Also through the stories were passed on the traditions and the rituals of the tribes, their spirituality, the culture. In the oral traditions are still there today. Many of our elders here in our tribal communities today are the keepers of the knowledge and the wisdom, and as part of their responsibility is to pass that down to the children, to the grandchildren, and to the succeeding generations as a means to perpetuate the life of the tribe.
I learned that the birds we saw at Roche-A-Cri are thunderbirds. They're an important figure to a number of tribes, so it's possible that the artwork was made by the ancestors of some of the Indian people living here today. By combining archaeological evidence and oral tradition, we have a better understanding of the original artists and their views of the world. Did we solve our mystery and figure out who made this rock art at Roche-A-Cri? We know that Native Americans have lived in this area for at least 12,000 years. Archaeologists are still investigating, but the farther back in time we go, the harder it is to find clues. We may never know exactly who left the rock art and what it means. Or maybe one of you will become an archaeologist one day and make new discoveries. Just think, in 1,000 years, archaeologists may be looking for clues about us. If you could pick one object to give clues about your life to future archaeologists, what would it be?
I think I'll leave an autographed basketball.
I will leave a story behind about my life.
I will leave behind my diary.
I think I will leave a Green Bay Packer helmet.
I will leave a computer behind so that you will know that I am into technology.
I think I'd choose a photo of my family. I wonder if it would survive for 1,000 years. Artifacts we find today that have been around for that long deserve protection. We need to protect and respect important archaeological sites from theft or destruction. Some are sacred places. If you would like to search for evidence of Wisconsin's earliest peoples, you could visit some of their descendants, take part in an archaeological dig, or go to Roche-A-Cri State Park. And maybe you'll discover new mysteries to explore. See you next time.